Both players here in our top 32. A pair of buys for Drake, single one for Will. And an interesting matchup between the two. Humans' fast starts can be very good against Amulet. There's not much removal in the main, so creatures that get out of range fast are a problem. Then again, advantage on Will. Cards like Kitesail Freebooter don't play as well against this deck as they do against most ramp strategies.
Right. And for the Humans deck, you really want to get Meddling Mage online against Primeval Titan.
Absolutely.
Though Will has drawn one of his engineered explosives, which can be really impactful in this matchup.
Yeah, turn 1 Sakura Tribe Scout for Will Pulliam. Yeah, I mean, Amulet kind of goes in two phases. The first step is survive until you make a Primeval Titan. The second step is, once you have a Titan, figure out how to win.
Right, the what now phase of the game.
Yeah. Turn 2 Thalia's Lieutenant from Drake. Then a Vile Ignoble Hierarchs. They both see each other. The feeling when you're playing Amulet is that if you can survive to the Titan, there's almost always a way to win. It's kind of on you to figure out what it is.
Right. The deck can definitely be very difficult to navigate from there, though Pulliam is on easy mode. There's Amulet of Vigor.
Yeah, Amulet of Vigor will untap for Colony Garden. He'll get a plant. Looks like he does have Simic Growth Chamber in hand, so there's a bounce land. That will mean he'll have 6 mana next turn if everything stays as it is. Question is if he has Primeval Titan.
Right.
And here is that innovation talked about, the card Adventurous Impulse. Newer one here. And it's pretty nice. He'll find the Titan that he didn't have.
Pretty solid hit.
Yeah.
That is a nice thing about this edition as well. Ancient Stirrings can't find Primeval Titan, at least not directly.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving pieces with Amulet. So the fact that Impulse is versatile to be able to find different ones, that you can get a creature or a land, specifically whether you're missing the bounce land or the Primeval Titan, this is a pretty good find for the deck.
Right. Yeah, so with the 2 cantrips, Ancient Stirrings can find Amulet, can't find Titan. Impulse is the opposite, but it's very good at finding lands.
Turn 3 here from Drake. He's right now kind of caught in this no man's land where he's not going to win this race. His start wasn't fast enough, and I don't think he's gone wide enough to beat a Resolved Titan. But we will find out. Militia Bugler the play here on turn 3.
And this is one of those spots where the Bugler is pretty slow to get online here. You would rather probably have a Thalia Heretic Cathar. Not for the interaction with lands, because...
yeah, that one doesn't work.
Yeah, well, but Primeval Titan specifically entering tap would be something that would be really good for Sasser.
I think they all... He's probably looking for... If the Amulet wasn't here, Drake could use Reflector Mages to buy extra time to hit through. Because the Titan wouldn't really have haste. It would just kind of come down and make value. He'd reflect it. He could maybe swing 20. The Amulet in play is going to be a problem, though.
Right. The ability to drum up your Boros Garrison. Give your Titan haste with your Sunhome. Is that the one?
Slayer Stronghold.
Slayer Stronghold. Sunhome's a double strike one.
So Thalia's Lieutenant attacks, and Colony Garden token jumps in front. Noble Hierarch will make another Noble Hierarch. Continue to pump that Lieutenant. And end step, will ramp. He'll just put Bazooka Bog into play. Decides to bog himself. It doesn't really matter who to bog here.
Well, he was the only player with cards in Graveyard.
All right.
So
keep it clean.
He wanted to impact something.
And during draw step, Kitesail Freebooter for Drake. A try here, but it'll hit the Engineering Explosives. You can't take a bounce land, and you can't take a Primeval Titan. And now we're going to get to see, this is, I think, a pretty straightforward execution. It's going to be Primeval Titan getting Boros Garrison Slayer's Stronghold. The question is how Will wants to follow up.
I like describing Amulet Titan lines as pretty straightforward.
Okay, this is what you, okay. Maybe let me quantify and say straightforward. In combo matchups where your opponent's not interacting with you, if you have an Amulet and a Titan, it's usually just give it haste and vigilance, go again. It's a pretty free roll because your opponent's not going to terminate it or do anything like that.
Right.
That's not true of every matchup. So Simic Growth Chamber, bouncing itself, making 2 mana. Simic Growth Chamber again, and I like what Will's doing here because this one, right? He keeps the bounce land for permanent ramp and picks up the Colony Garden. It's a heads-up play, lets him actually have more material on the board for next turn, and then here's Primeval Titan.
You're getting another plant token to chump block that Lieutenant could be beneficial.
Yeah. To not bounce the bounce land is correct, and then of all the other lands, he picked up the best one also.
Yep. All right, and there is Garrison Slayer Strongholds going to +2/+0, Vigilance Haste up his Primeval Titan.
Yeah, with your opponent, no interaction tapped out. This is and an Amulet in play. This is pretty free because you'll get more lands as we go. Titan swings for 8, and now Will gets another trigger. The big play thing he wants to be aware of here is if there's a Reflector Mage, he'd like to set up a situation where he can still win.
Right.
If there's not a Reflector Mage, he's going to win no matter what happens. So he gets Simic Growth Chamber, Teleria West. They both untap. He puts the Teleria West in his hand.
And so the Teleria West, if nothing happens, that's the opportunity to transmute, find Summoner's Pact, find Primeval Titan. If something does happen, he only has 1 main deck Engineered Explosives, but he does have a Walking Ballista. And
I'm glad you minded. That's, I think, the best find. Ideally, he'd get Engineered Explosives here, but it's already under the freebooter. The best 0 from the transmute for is likely Ballista. And remember, he only has to do that if the Titan gets bounced. If the Titan doesn't get bounced, he's got the double strike land in his hand. This thing's going to swing for lethal.
Right. And here you see Sasser, I want to say with the Vile Trigger on the stack, he cracked that canopy. You might have already drawn his card.
Interesting enough, Drake in the Classic Top 8 last weekend actually did win this matchup. Played against Eric Hawkins on the same list, en route to the championship.
Right, yeah. So it was Vile Trigger on the stack. He wanted the most information. Drew an extra card with the canopy. But yeah, as you mentioned, he really wants Reflector Mage here.
Yeah. The hard part is that without Reflector Mage, it's just... I mean, he can bluff it, but without it happening, this Titan's going to be 8/6 double strike trample. Right. Or perhaps will transmute for a second Titan and will swing both. There's a lot of lines that are just not very beatable.
Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of tension here on Pulliam's side when it comes to Vile on 3 being up, because if he has to transmute T-West, find Summoner's Pact, with Summoner's Pact on the stack, Sasser could just Reflector Mage the Primeval Titan.
Right.
So it's really tough to get multiple Titans.
Yeah, and even beyond that, if when William attacks, does he want to pull the trigger on giving it double strike? If there's a Vile on 3, there's some concern.
Right.
The likely safest play for Will, honestly, if he's right about that, is to just attack with the Titan, let it trade, let it do whatever, and just get the Walking Ballista anyway. The Titan will deal enough damage, and he'll have so much mana afterward that he'll just make Ballista on 7 or something like that. Humans doesn't beat that.
Right. If the Titan already trades, gets the Lieutenant off the battlefield, there's way less work that the Ballista would have to do.
Right. Yeah, not to mention, if Drake doesn't put it in front, then the Ballista's lethal.
So it looks like Drake landed on Thalia's Lieutenant. He picked that over Meddling Mage. And
okay.
Part of that is, he doesn't have the Reflecting Mage. He has Meddling Mage. And you can't really name anything because the Meddling Mage is facing Teleria West. That's just a tutor. It could be Walking Ballista, it could be Summoner's Pact. It can't shut off both.
I still think it's best to play the Mage and name Walking Ballista, but this swing for 7, you're right, I don't know that Will can win through it. It's going to be real tough, or that Drake can win through it. A swing for 7 brings Will to 13.
Is that 9 with Exalted?
You're right, it's 9.
Either way, Pulliam's not blocking.
Not 20.
Right.
That's the important part.
Yeah, it's not lethal, and it's not going to get blocked by this Primeval Titan.
And we'll see the name.
All right, so Sasser, he's elected not to bluff that card being Reflector Mage, and there's only so much value in that anyway.
Well, yeah, the difficult part is that when you give Amulet's a pretty deterministic deck. So when you tap out and have no cards in hand, a lot of times, if they can find the win, it's just a checkmate, right? The mage is named Primeval Titan. Yeah, the difficulty is that I believe Ballista's lethal here.
I admire the use of a chess term for a situation that is more akin to a jigsaw puzzle.
Sure. Let's see. Can we play along at home? So he's got 8 mana. If he transmutes for Walking Ballista, he'll have 5.
This would be my face all the time.
No, this would be great. This would be great. I'm gonna walk through. Okay, so we transmute for Ballista, put Ballista in our hand, swing Primeval Titan, get 2 bounce lands, pick up some tapped stuff. So now we will have 8 mana again. We have 2 land drops. We can make the Ballista up to a 6/6. We can transmute 4 and make a 6/6 Ballista. Will's going to make a Colony Garden. This is a pretty safe line because I think he can go for a lethal this turn. There's a line where if he makes Sunhome and attacks, then he can eat the whole board with the Titan. And he can still do that. He can swing, and if Drake doesn't block, he'll use Tribe Scout to put the Sunhome from his hand into play and just immediately kill Drake.
Right.
There's a lot to like here. I suspect the line he wants to be on is Titan will get some bounce lands, pick up the Colony Garden. If Drake doesn't block, the Sunhome thing I mentioned will happen. If he does block, Tribe Scout will just put another Colony Garden back into play, make some more chump blockers, and Will can roll it up in the next turn.
Yep. Yeah, with the plant token there, even the Tribe Scout, he wasn't to activate that. 11 life to play with. He has some blocks that'll get him through to the next turn.
And this is really nice. If he gets Vesuva bounce land, he can Vesuva copying Colony Garden, bounce land picking up the Vesuva, and then just he can have as many as 3 plant tokens for next turn. That should be able to block everything. Mm-hmm. And that looks like the line he's on, and that looks pretty strong. We'll see if Vesuva's copying. I assume it's the Colony Garden, though. And it is. 2 plant tokens. They untap. He's got to pick up one of his lands. Probably the Vesuva.
Right. Yeah, it's not worth too much on the battlefield as a land that taps for green.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he picked up the Colony Garden, which is functionally the same thing. It's better to just have Vesuva in your hand as it can be anything.
Yeah, if that's the plan, that's the plan. But yeah, the Vesuva would have been better.
Yeah, that's not going to make a difference. There's so much stuff going on that it's not... That's fine. And now it's interesting. So there's that 6-power Titan in play, and I love that he's maintained the Tribe Scout untapped. Because like I said, if Drake doesn't put enough power and toughness in front of this, he can just tap Tribe Scout, put Sunhome into play, and double strike the Titan. I will say, never mind. I had something else, but it's not there.
Sasser does seem aware of this. He's planning to do at least a little bit of blocking. He's trying to figure out what he can draw that can actually win the game, because it seems like even if he gets through this turn, he sees the plant tokens. They're just on the table. He won't be able to attack through them for lethal.
Right. So he's going to put Militia Bugler in front of the Titan. And if you're not going to go for lethal here, and I don't think will, there's no reason. Just let the damage happen. Go make a large Ballista. Hold up your Tribe Scout. It's really hard for something to go wrong. That is a line that I believe is a winning one. There's probably another one if Will wants to find it.
Right. Yeah, with these plants, don't think Pulliam will be taking lethal damage on the following turn. No reason to get more aggressive.
And I love this from Will then. Yeah, tramples over for 2. Transmutes. He has 1 mana floating. So this is 8 total. He can make a Ballista for 4. And not to mention, if the Ballista survives, nothing else matters. You just untap with 100 lands and a Ballista against humans.
he's also in a situation where Ballista for 4 means he can clean up the freebooter. He'd have explosives on top of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's going to go for. Solid execution here by Will, what looks to be wrapping up a Game 1 win. Yeah, so remember 1 floating, so that makes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's counting it to be sure. There is that green floating as he's transmuted with 2 growth chambers.
He could scout in a land to make it 2 more, but I think that's a little excessive.
Yeah. Inclined to agree. Ballista for 4. And there we go. Your turn. Good question. Can Drake find a way to win through this? Unlikely.
Yeah, there's really not much in the way of modern decks. Outside of some kind of combo finish, this is a position where Pulliam is very firmly ahead.
Yeah. Correction, the Ballista is on 4. A draw here for Drake. Yeah, 2 plant tokens.
As opposed to a plant token with 2 +1/+1 counters.
Well, that's the black die, so it would be -1/-1 counters, which that makes even less sense.
Right.
We just don't resolve state-based effects.
It's fine. Not until the end of the phase.
What year is it? Oh, Noble Hierarch, the draw for Drake. That will pump some creatures. That is not going to be enough.
Yeah, you can make some attacks here, but they don't really amount to much.
All right. With all the Exalted triggers on the stack, Will shoot down the freebooter and take back his Engineered Explosives. And Drake Sasser picking up the cards. Will Pulliam up Game 1 here over Humans. It's going to be an interesting one indeed. Let's head over to the sideboards. For Drake Sasser, 2 copies of Whirler Rogue, 2 copies of Visit Staticaster, 2 Gaddock Teague, 2 Knight of Autumn, 2 Sin Collector, 2 Auriok Champion, a Plague Crafter, a Anafenza, and a Dismember.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. None of these cards look very effective in this matchup.
I'm pretty inclined to agree.
Like, having Plague Crafter on a Vial on 3,
No,
assuming there's no Colony Garden, could hit
terrible.
a Primeval Titan.
Yeah, I'm out on Plague Crafter.
Gaddock Teague turns off explosives, doesn't turn off Ballista. There's very marginal value there.
Yeah, I think you're mostly right. I could see, depending on what's his main deck, Whirler Rogue or Sin Collector may be better than cards in his main. They're not great, though. And I know some people are like, do you want Knight of Autumn to try to blow up an amulet? I would say pass on that. The amulet's damage is done usually before that would be relevant.
Right. That's something to reach for, arguably, just because he's in some trouble here. When it comes to the straight race on the combo versus the Humans deck's closing speed, Knight of Autumn could theoretically come in time faster than just some aggressive creature like his Mayor of Averbrooks in the main deck.
Mm-hmm.
They probably don't apply enough additional pressure where it makes sense to not board them out for something potentially disruptive.
I think I like the Whirler Rogue. I would go for that over maybe the Mayor, but not too many other changes on Drake's side.
Yeah, Whirler Rogue would make it possible to punch through plant tokens, which could matter.
Right. Or a Pasta Vigilanced Titan, something like that.
Yeah.
Just for 1 turn. I don't think this is a terrible matchup for Humans. Will had to start with a Tribe Scout and an Amulet. They both went uncontested.
Yep.
And when that's going to happen, you're going to be on the wrong side of the race.
Yeah, that's just generally true for the deck.
On Will's side, 3 Spell Pierce, 2 Abrade, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Fire Spout, and a 2nd Engineered Explosives, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Hornet Queen, 1 Rurik Thar, 1 Obstinate Baloth, and 1 Emrakul the Promised End.
Yeah, it was a good mix of stuff to slow the Humans deck down here. The Abrades, the Fire Spouts, the extra engineered explosives, those are all fairly impactful. Depending on how the game shapes up, there's positions where I could see drumming up Hornet Queen instead of Primeval Titan. Your Titan doesn't always necessarily have great attacks, depending on how large Sasser's creatures have gotten. So just deploying a Hornet Queen when you get behind is pretty strong.
I think I like that. There are going to be boards, Champion of the Parish draws, that Titan won't be good enough, and that Hornet Queen will be better in. And that seems like something I'd be interested in.
Right, and they'll buy you time to set up for the Titan being good.
Exactly. Outside of that, yeah, we're just looking at the removal, the Braids and Fire Spouts.
Yep.
Try to keep things clean while you set up. I don't think Obstinate Baloth or Tireless Tracker, despite being decent mid-range creatures, are what you want to be doing here.
Yeah, the mid-range element of Tracker, this isn't really a matchup for that, especially because Sasser's probably just leaving in all of the Reflector Mages.
Right.
Obstinate Baloth is just nowhere near good enough against a deck like this. It's just a million creatures. The damage output on a Champion of the Parish deck is just extremely high, just with attacking.
So in just over a month, we have SCGCon Winter. It's an invitational. If you haven't qualified yet, there are still chances. StarsGames.com holds their invitational qualifiers. Right now, for all of them, $1,000 to the top 8. You can get qualified for Invitational coming up in December. You also get points to help earn buys at our opens, a pin and playmat. Right now, you got a lot of great tokens. You can get the Aaron Barrich Invitational token. You can get this guy's Treasure token. You can get Ross Miriam's Elemental token. And our newest one is Nick Miller's 1/1 Flying Thopter token. Those are being given away at IQs right now. You can find one near you, starcgames.com/IQ.
These tokens are very well done. Love the art on all of them. Invitational qualifiers, great tournaments. If you've never made it out to an Invitational, SCGCon Winter is going to be a blast. They're great tournaments. I qualified for my first Invitational I played through an IQ. It was back when Tempered Steel was standard legal, right after they banned Stoneforge Mystic and Jace the Mind Sculptor.
That's a
very specific window in Magic history. Yeah, because Jace was almost going to rotate before they banned it.
Were you still playing Blue-White?
I was playing Tempered Steel.
Okay.
I played in a room in the dead of summer where the air conditioner was broken. It was 95 degrees outside, and I just played a mindless beatdown deck and won very easily.
It's a good day.
It was a good strategy for the day.
Aether Vial to start here, game number 2 for Drake. Will, going to start on a Tribe Scout again. This one off Gemstone Mine. Don't know that he has the bounce land just yet. Still keep a hand. Turn 1 Tribe Scout, among the more powerful things you can be doing here.
Especially in a matchup where you expect your opponent will not have a removal spell. And
Oof.
Well, sometimes it happens. Drake Sasser has brought in that Dismember. That's something I was thinking about. It has to happen exactly like this.
Yes.
But when it does, it is impactful.
So Ancient Stirrings from Pulliam. Yeah, I mean, this is really the creature you want against. Azusa, frequently, the Amulet player will not give you a window to profitably use a removal spell on. Mm-hmm. If you play non-triggering lands immediately, it works out. Amulet of Vigor found off Ancient Stirrings, though, for Will Pulliam. Gemstone Mine down to 1. Figure he'll pick that up this turn.
Right.
And he does. Checking, we don't have a Fulminator Mage or anything on the other side. No.
That's really tough to cast. It is not a human creature.
Oh, it's an elemental, isn't it?
It's an elemental shaman.
It's from Shadowmoor. Yeah, that's probably out.
I knew it was a shaman because I've put Cavern of Souls on shaman for my Tassiger and my Fulminator Mage.
I assumed it was from a Rage Forger deck.
Yeah, that's not me.
So we have Amulet of Vigor, Azusa, so we'll do Engineer Explosives. A big stack of lands, Azusa, and Amulet of Vigor. So he's got a lot of mana locked up here. The Amulet's not actually that impactful. It will help when he finds the Titan, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Given that this hand isn't really set up to do anything until Pulliam draws some pretty specific stuff, you might just reach for the explosives.
Certainly would. Yeah, because what William's play, if he draws nothing next turn, his play is Azusa, land, go. And then at that point, we already have a turn 4 Primeval Titan the moment that happened, right?
Yep.
Because we ramped to 5. So, okay, an Amulet Titan versus a regular Titan, that is a significant difference. But if the Titan doesn't show up, this doesn't matter. And so taking Engineer Explosives just seems right.
Not to mention that if you just take the amulet, even though explosives cost some mana, it's just going to kill the freebooter.
But he's going to take the other one now. Depending on... I'm interested by that play. Depending on what else he could have imaged, that may be more aggressive than necessary. Here's Azusa from Will. He'll just drop some more lands down.
It does give him more flying bodies, and if he has a Thalia's Lieutenant to pair with it,
yeah,
he'll be applying a lot of damage that way.
Yeah, certainly if there's no other 2-mana card in his hand, yes, play something. Get things onto the board.
And you saw part of Game 1 revolved around Colony Garden making some plant tokens, just flying creatures. They are worth something in the matchup.
But remember, Slayer Stronghold can pop the Phantasmal Image.
Yeah. I don't know if Sasser's seen that interaction before. It is a funny one.
We'll see if Will sees it. And there is the Thalia's Lieutenant you mentioned. And Will...
Is it 2?
It is 2. Okay, this is a lot of 1/1 counters on things. Well, more like 2 on all of them. 1 on one of the Thalia's Lieutenants. 2 on everything else.
Still a lot of additional pressure, though.
Yeah, swinging in for 6. And a pass.
Yeah, and even if Pulliam spends his turn strong holding down the image, his hand doesn't do anything otherwise. He needs to produce something else.
Well, here's Explorer. I mean, if he finds a Titan, this is a big turn. But it's just a Gemstone Mine.
It's the opposite of a Titan.
And oh yeah, he'll take that amulet back. And he's counting land drops that he has made this turn, I believe, on that die. So he's made 1. He may make 3 more, if he would like. Ideally, he wants to play everything out except for 1 bounce land. 1 Vesuva would count for that.
I always want to be able to pick up a land.
Yep. It is more mana, because he has an Azusa amulet in play, it is more mana to do that than to have it in play. And I do like what he's doing. He's using all his land drops to reset the Slayer's Stronghold so that if he needs to pump Azusa here, he can.
Yeah, maybe actually trade with one of the Thalia's Lieutenants.
If Drake lets him, I think he'll accept.
Yes.
Though the Humans deck usually has a way to pump a Lieutenant.
I imagine that will be Drake's plan. If it's available, these will be larger Lieutenants.
Right. In that situation, I don't know that Will's ready to chump block with Azusa yet.
Right.
If he draws a Titan, this Azusa will matter. Or especially if he just draws Walking Ballista, having Azusa plus Amulet is really important. It's a ton of mana.
Right. You just bounce land, 2 mana, bounce land, 2 mana, bounce land, 2 mana. Really ramp up your Ballista.
By the way, Drake's applying some big pressure here. The Freebooter is a 3, the Lieutenant is a 4, the other Lieutenant is a 3. That's 10 damage. So there is an offer of a trade. I still don't know that Will accepts. I don't think he does. I think he's still dead in 2 turns even if he trades.
Yeah, so he has mana on the table for a Ballista for 6, is that right? Or, no, that's not right. 1, 2, 3, it's 4. Because I think there's 3 bounce lands, 2 other lands. And then another bounce land can put that up to 7.
Yep, it'd be Ballista on 7 if he draws one.
He would like to be able to free up the explosives.
It would be lethal, Ryan, if the Vial has nothing. You could play the Ballista on 6, give it Vigilance, Haste, attack, shoot down the Noble Hierarch, attack, and then shoot him in the face.
Okay. It's pretty good.
I think the Azusa... Now, with the Azusa gone, I don't think we're looking at anything like that.
Right.
And now 1 more draw. I don't think that Titan saves it for him anymore. And that... Is that a Telariowust? If it is, he's going to pay... I think it is. I don't like the block on the Azusa because I don't think it changed Drake's clock at all.
Right. Then the Walking Ballista is much smaller. And you have to drum it up like that.
Yeah, everything's a lot worse
He has
here.
a second explosives in his sideboard. I assume that came in, and explosives on 2 here is actually massively impactful.
Yeah, and remember, even though he only has these 4 lands, it doesn't matter with how Thalia works. You just declare it on 1.
Yeah.
That's what he does. You're absolutely right. The transmute is for the explosives, and this should put Will back in the game. It doesn't have a win condition yet, so we're still playing.
Yeah. Then Sasser's looking at slowly closing with this noble hierarch. that gives Will a few draws.
He'll sacrifice the engineered explosives.
That frees up the other one under the kite sail freebooter.
And Will passes the turn, so he's got the other explosives back in his hand. Back to Drake we go. Just needs to piece together 6 more points. Find something he likes.
Ooh, is it a Mantis Rider?
That would be pretty good.
Oh, it's not.
This might be better. Militia Bugler.
Yeah, you could diversify your mana curve a good amount.
Yeah, into a known engineering explosives, or find a meddling mage. Finds a noble hierarch. Not great. Yeah.
Probably a tax overcasting that one.
Well, possibly just didn't have options on that one.
I would imagine.
That's what it feels like.
It could have been a this noble hierarch or the other noble hierarch situation.
So does he want the hierarch, or does he want 1 damage? Drake now gets to pick.
My understanding is that he would just want to attack this turn. The explosives can just clean up both hierarchs or the bugler. It doesn't make really a big difference on following turns.
Really depends what he draws here. Assuming if he draws another land, then he will have a big decision. I mean, all he has to do is find the Walking Ballista. At this point, that should be more than good enough.
Right. A lot of mana available. Could Ballista for 5 with the land.
Yeah, and on top of that, you have enough mana to reload it every turn.
Right. You don't even have to remove any counters right away. You just have a 5/5, which blocks everything, even a double Exalted Bugler.
Exactly. Engineered explosives. If he sets it to 1, then all he has to beat is a Militia Bugler. That may be enough.
He hasn't drawn anything. It's a little scary, but you do take care of the Vial as well,
Yeah.
which turns off some shenanigans.
He will lose his own Amulet, but that's acceptable. This isn't really a board where Amulet matters. Kind of mentioned that the Ballista or a Titan both win here, and Amulet's not going to change that. A Ballista's still huge. Mm-hmm. That said, he hasn't. Looks like that was his draw for turn was another Amulet, so okay. 2 damage in, Will to 4. Kitesail Freebooter shows Vesuva as the last card.
And this is still a point shy of lethal, but now a Lieutenant would make it lethal because he has 2 creatures.
And he's counting lands. You don't like that if you're on the human side. Hornet Queen. That is a good draw here.
I will say
that is
so.
a nice one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He can give it vigilance and haste. So that's Hornet Queen. Here come 4 insects. Drake's head and hands sees it too. 2-0 haste vigilance on the Queen proper. She'll attack in for 4. Brings 4 1/1s with her.
More than enough to block the board here.
Yeah.
Sasser's deck, humans can't punch through this really in ways other than using Reflector Mage to eliminate a token or attack into Hornets.
Well, did he board in the Whirler Rogue?
Whirler Rogue would be a big deal. Yeah, the ability to make a creature unblockable. He needed another mana source if you wanted to get that one online, though.
True. Kitesail Freebooter is not going to do it. And he'll pass back. And this one, again, in a lot of the creature mirrors, this card is one of your best tools. You'll see it against Affinity as well. And how about Primeval Titan? And that should wrap it up. It's going to get 2-0 Vigilance Haste. This should be lethal. The Hornet Queen wasn't already. And you see Will, he's going to reach most likely for... Well, I guess he just has lethal here with the double strike land, sure.
He gets it up to 16, and then there's 7 toughness on the other side, but he has these flying attackers as well.
Right. So if here he gets... What he'll do is he will get the double strike land and some bounce land. Probably, I believe he has a Gruul Turf in here. Pick up some tapped lands, give us Titan haste. When the Titan attacks, it'll go ahead and get some way to make white mana. Either Celestia Sanctuary or a Gemstone Mine. That will be enough to activate the double strike on the Titan, which should be lethal.
Yep. And he hadn't made his land drop yet, so it looks like he's just picking up his red-white bounce land. He can just do that pre-combat.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in this situation, he already has the double strike without using the Titan's attack trigger. Enters the battlefield untapped, picks up one of the Gemstone Mines. Yeah, Titan is going to be 16 points of trample. And the Hornet Queen will attack.
Yeah, when it comes to a bunch of 1-power bodies, you can just add them to the trample damage.
Exactly.
So that's 21 trample versus 7.
And that will do it. So Will Pulliam 2-0. He is your winner over Drake Sasser. 2-0. Amulet Titan moving on.
I wouldn't say he made it look easy, because I never watched Amulet Titan and think to myself, I could do that.